Yes, the big one is here. Again? Really? Yes, Final Cut Pro 11. In this series of very in-depth tutorials, I want to look at the big and small new features from the amazing magnetic mask, which you can watch up here, the transcribe to captions, spatial video editing, and a bunch of great new workflow improvements. So, after the magnetic mask, on to Final Cut Pro's new transcribe to captions. With it, you can automatically create captions in the timeline with a powerful AI language model built for speed and accuracy, and boy, as we'll see, it's definitely fast. But unfortunately for my non-English editing viewers, as of the making of this video, you're only able to transcribe English language audio. But Apple has already announced support for further languages in the near future for Apple Intelligence, which I'm going to assume will automatically expand the transcription possibilities at the same time. Also, this feature, as opposed to the magnetic mask, for example, not only requires an Apple Silicon Mac, sorry Intel users, but also macOS Sequoia 14.6 or later. So let's take a look. Oh, and stick around if you're interested in seeing a couple of brand new and very cool apps from my friends at Intelligent Assistants that you won't want to miss if captions and titling are an important part of your workflow. Let's go. So this feature is far easier to explain than the magnetic mask because it is as simple and straightforward as you could imagine while still being incredibly powerful. Something I personally have come to love about Apple's approach to otherwise seemingly complex tasks. Here, for example, I have my last video covering everything in Final Cut 10.8 that is almost 51.5 minutes long. To transcribe this, there are multiple places where you can find the command. You simply select video with audio or just an audio clip, and either look in the edit menu where it has been added to the captions submenu, or look in the enhancement menu under the viewer, or simply right-click the clip in the timeline, and towards the bottom of the context menu, we see the new transcribe to captions command as well, with the shortcut Shift-Command-C. And again, as I've said before, if you're using a custom keyboard layout, you will not see this or any other of the new shortcuts by default. I simply select it, and Final Cut immediately starts transcribing. By the way, the very first time you use this, Final Cut Pro first downloads the language model and then creates the captions. Only once, and obviously an internet connection is required. I have not sped this up, by the way. This is the actual speed of the transcription. In other words, Final Cut transcribes this 51.5 minute clip that has nearly continuous speaking in it in barely over 30 seconds. Whereby the majority of that time is spent creating the captions, since the transcription is literally already done by the time the progress bar gets to the end. So technically, it only took about 10 to 15 seconds, but I'll stick with the roughly 31 seconds since I can't say for sure. Pretty amazing, and of course, all this happens on device, so there is no uploading of your clip or audio to the cloud or anywhere else. Once finished, I can skim through the clip to admire my new captions, which by default are in the ITT format. But if you want CEA 608 captions for embedding into your clip, or even SRT captions instead for exporting to YouTube, for example, you can select them all, right-click one of them, go to Assign Caption Roles and Edit Roles, then add whichever format you prefer, click Apply, and now you can right-click your captions again and assign them to your preferred format. Or, with them still selected, right-click, go to Duplicate to New Format, and select the format from here without having to manually add the role first. I'll undo. So, when I first tried this, I was wondering if this really is as incredibly fast as it appears to be. So I thought I'd compare it to the other apps that I have that do transcriptions. And it would appear that my feeling was right on the money. I tested Captionator, Premiere Pro, Resolve, and Aiko, the free transcription app on the App Store, with their default settings and with the exact same clip for comparison. And lo and behold, they were all noticeably slower, some even considerably slower. Captionator took over twice as long, Premiere took over 3 times as long, Resolve nearly 7 times as long, and Ico was by far the slowest at nearly 14 times the amount of time needed. So, yes, I think it's safe to say that Final Cut is incredibly fast. As far as comparing the accuracy is concerned, I can't really say that much since I wasn't really willing to look through 5 51-minute transcriptions to compare them. All I can say from skimming through all of them is that none of them were flawless. All had their issues with recognizing certain words or phrases, and things such as punctuation also varied. So in the end, no matter what you use, you will always want to look through the transcription and make any corrections as needed. But even then, it will be exponentially faster than having to do it yourself. By the way, background noise, music, or overlapping dialogue may affect the accuracy and timing of auto-generated captions. To optimize the quality of the captions, try to enhance the spoken audio using voice isolation first. Whereby, admittedly, after applying it to this particular clip and invoking the transcription once again, I noticed a significant slowdown. But even then, it was still very fast, just not as fast. So you might want to only apply it where it's really necessary to maximize the transcription speed. Looking at the project with the raw edit of the same clip, I can just as well select either individual clips, be it a video or just audio, or an entire roll of audio, and right-click to transcribe just the selection. I'll speed this one up because it in fact takes longer with individual files, even though it's the same audio, since it has a much larger overhead to deal with. But you have to keep in mind that if you have overlapping audio like this that you transcribe, then you're likely to get errors, or rather overlaps, in the captions as well, seen here in red. But this is also caused by the fact that I simply selected way too much, such as some audio with German in it, which it, of course, unsuccessfully tries to transcribe, and Final Cut, funny enough, even tried transcribing some of the effects audio. So again, you'll want to keep your selection to the bare minimum to avoid unnecessary cleanup. Because in this case, Final Cut will transcribe literally every single clip individually, regardless whether it's the only one at that point or not. But this is an easy fix because you can edit them as any other clip by simply moving the in or out point of the affected caption as needed. So I personally would recommend transcribing the final master, or even a compound clip instead. By the way, as a very clever extra, if I right-click any of these clips that have the dialogue role assigned, even though they have spoken audio, I'm not offered the option to transcribe to captions. That is because they are all muted. In other words, Final Cut is smart enough to ignore any audio that isn't actually audible, which in this case would result in an amazing mess in the transcription if I were to just select everything and transcribe it. Again, simple but powerful. But I have an entire video on the subject of captions, SRT, etc. if you want to learn even more about creating, managing, and exporting captions that I highly recommend you check out as well. As always, link in the description. Okay, so which app was I referring to in the beginning that can make transcribing clips in Final Cut Pro that much more powerful? Well, since I know that a lot of people would like the ability to convert their existing captions into regular titles, mainly because the design options for captions are very limited, which, by the way, is not a limitation of Final Cut, but of the individual caption formats and standards, to which Final Cut obviously stringently adheres to. And since such a conversion isn't possible by default in Final Cut, yet I thought I'd ask my friends Greg and Philip at Intelligent Assistance if they could come up with a solution. And amazingly, in the shortest of time, they have. Introducing Caption Animator, a very clever workflow extension for converting your captions to regular titles. But not by having to go through some tedious export, import song and dance, or by using some default or predefined titles that you then have to edit after the fact, but via simple drag and drop and using any title that you like as a template. Simply open a project with existing captions, such as this one, where you will, of course, want to have already checked spelling and punctuation. Now you add any title into the timeline that you'd like to use as your template for the captions, adjust its appearance to your liking, And once you have Caption Animator installed, you simply go to your workflow extension menu at the top left and select it from here. A window opens explaining exactly what it is you need to do, and as you can see, you can even create and use multiple titles in your project as templates. If you do, then Caption Animator will use them in turn to create the titles. Very clever. When ready, you simply drag the project with your captions to the Caption Animator window, select the title or titles from the list that you would like to use as a template, and if you have multiple caption sets or roles, for example, different languages, then you can select whichever you would like to convert from the menu at the bottom left, and then you just click Go. After just a few moments, you're asked which library you would like to add the new project to. Select the one you want and click Choose. With that, Caption Animator generates a new event in the chosen library with a singular project that has the original name with a +titles suffix. Opening this shows me that it contains the original edit captions that I can turn off in the index window in the roles panel if I want, as well as the same captions as connected titles, where connected titles are perfectly fine in this case, but not necessarily always the most ideal. Which leads me to some additional options in Caption Animator that I think I can actually claim responsibility for after having worked with the genius minds at Intelligent Assistance on this. Because at the bottom right of the window, you'll find a pop-up where you can choose to create the titles as connected titles, as we just saw, or if I switch back to my raw edit, where I already have a number of other titles, I can, for organizational and visual purposes, have Caption Animator create a secondary storyline for the titles to live in. I'll select Secondary Storyline, drag my project to the window once again, and I'm asked which of this long list of titles I would like to use as my template. Fortunately, it's the first one, so I select it and hit Go to generate the new event and project as before. Opening this, we now see that all the titles that were generated from the captions are neatly contained within a secondary storyline. With that, I can more easily manage them by dragging them around, disabling them, etc. with just a few clicks. But you have to, of course, keep in mind that in this case, the entire secondary storyline only has a single connection at the very beginning of the timeline. In other words, all of the titles are connected there too, and not with the individual clips. So should I later decide to move anything in my primary storyline around, the associated titles will not move with them, as we see the regular captions do. So if this is in fact something you want to do, you'll either want to select individual titles within the secondary storyline or even all of the titles, and lift them from the storyline either via a right click or by pressing Option Command and the upward arrow. Now, if you move any clip in the primary storyline below, the titles will move along with it, along with the regular captions. But then there is one additional feature for the sake of visual organization of your titles. Because while I was thinking that I would personally prefer creating connected titles for my captions so that I don't lose the magnetic functionality, but in a timeline that already has titles, you can very quickly lose sight of them, and it can be visually confusing. So what other more practical option could there be to keep my individually connected titles, but not have them get lost in the existing ones? And that's where I thought of roles. Though, to be fair, Caption Animator actually secretly adds a captions sub-role to the titles role, as you can see in the index window. With it, you can both select and deactivate the newly generated titles separately from any other ones, which is, of course, really clever. There may even be a feature by the time you see this where the individual languages that were generated are denoted in the name also, since that is a feature request I submitted. But what if I wanted to give my template title my own subrole and color, since you can't define different colors for subroles? Then I could easily differentiate between them and any previous or other titles just by looking at the timeline. And the minds behind Caption Animator took that thought even one very clever step further. If I go back to my raw edit project and zoom into where I've already added and edited my desired template title as I would like it, and maybe even for demonstration purposes, option click it to add a second one, Then right-click each and assign a new video role to them that I've already created called Captions 1 and Captions 2 that are a different color. If I drag this project onto the Caption Animator window, it automatically recognizes any titles that don't have the regular title role assigned to them and only offers me these two as possible templates and has automatically selected them for me. I'll leave it that way, tell it to give me connected titles, and click Go. And always keep in mind that we're talking about 51.5 minutes of captions here, even if I'm editing this a little bit for time. Once the event and project are created and I open the timeline, we can see that the titles have been used alternately for the creation of the subtitles and have also been assigned their custom roles and with that, colors for quick and easy differentiation from the rest. And obviously, they are also available in the index window for individual selection, activation, and deactivation. And I can do this with any number of title templates I want. Very smart and very useful. By the way, the original template titles have also been automatically deleted from the timeline so as not to overlap unexpectedly with my shiny new subtitles. By the way, if you're looking to make any of the erratic, jumpy, TikTok style titles, then this isn't the app for you. Fortunately, if you ask me, but that's a matter of taste and opinion, I guess. And if that weren't enough, due to the fact that you currently can only transcribe English language audio, the clever guys at Intelligent Assistance came up with yet another super useful app. One that I can see being of particular interest to YouTube creators, for example. Caption Translator. Once again, super easy drag and drop use and very powerful. Once I have my captions in English, all I have to do is open the Caption Translator workflow extension window and drag that project to it. And as we can see, it recognizes that I want to translate from English. But if I have any other additional language as well, those will show up here as an option. Now I simply choose from 19 additional languages, if you exclude the 2 English ones. Select whichever language you would like to translate to, and you could even add as many additional languages as you like with the little plus button on the left. So I can add Spanish, German, and French, for example, and simply hit Go. At this point, if I don't have the language model for any of the selected languages installed, because as irony would have it, Caption Translator actually uses Apple's own language models from Sequoia, then I'm prompted to download them now. If you have already downloaded them for the sake of macOS's dictation, for example, then you will not see this. After a quick download, Caption Translator goes to work and once again asks me which library I would like to add my new event and project to. I'll select one and open my new project where I can see all the new languages above my timeline as captions. Going into the index window under the Roles tab, I can select which of the languages I would like to have active and see superimposed onto my video. And let me tell you, as a multilingual person myself, the quality of the translated captions is the best that I have seen. Miles above anything that I've tried in the past, such as running an SRT through Google Translate or any other translation app for that matter. Something that has proven to be truly and utterly useless. Again, while these two are certainly not perfect, they are definitely an extremely usable starting point to go from and save me an inordinate amount of time and potentially even money. So, without question, worth every single cent. Now, I could even go back to Caption Animator after adding a title template and have any one of my new languages added as regular titles as well. So cool and so easy. I mean, come on. That's pretty amazing for free in Final Cut or just a few bucks for the other apps. What do you think? Is all this by itself worth the update to you if you haven't actually updated already? Do you see yourself spending a few bucks for Caption Animator and Translator? For which I don't get any money, by the way. I merely helped develop them and think they're the perfect addition to Final Cut 11. Would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. I don't leave any comments or questions unanswered and love a good workflow discussion. Either way, thanks for watching and be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when I post my next videos on Final Cut Pro 11. In the meantime, maybe check out the next chapter in this series right here, or even my previous video on creating, managing, and exporting captions and the various formats. See you there. Take care.